Good evening to everyone in Alberta, Canada, and beyond. It is Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, and I'm Kerry Lambert, and I welcome you to an online webinar evening of solutions for New Alberta, brought to you by the Alberta Prosperity Project, also known as APP. APP's purpose is to educate, inspire, and unite all Albertans, businesses, and organizations to protect their prosperity, individual freedoms, rights, and self-determination by empowering the Alberta government to restructure Alberta's relationship within or without Canada. Of course, we couldn't do this without your help, and I know there's a hockey game going on right now, and maybe that's just to distract us from everything that's going on in federal, provincial, and municipal governments. Either way, I'll wish the Oilers the best of luck in this game against the Dallas Stars. I'm not hopping on any bandwagon, but it would be nice to have an Alberta team representing Canada in the Stanley Cup. Now, wouldn't it? So if you can, please share this webinar on various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Rumble, but you can still share it to other social like Telegram, Threads, etc. As well as after this live, we're also on other video and audio sites like Apple, Spotify, BitChute, and Vimeo. If you can, please tell us in the comments what city or town you're watching from, as well as what platform. I know a lot of people just put in their towns, but it's also good to know if you're actually watching through the APP link, or maybe you joined us from Rumble or YouTube, etc. These webinars do take time and an effort to do, and we are happy to have sponsors on our webinars. If you'd like to sponsor an upcoming webinar, you can get in contact with us at, I got to find myself here. I got to find it. There you go. Contact at albertaprosperity.com, which is also on the top of our albertaprosperityproject.com website. Tonight's sponsor is Solve Energy. The switch to solar power is happening now across Western Canada and globally. Take advantage of up to $5,600 in grants for homeowners and a 30% tax credit for businesses. Join the movement by generating clean, renewable electricity from the sun. Solve Energy is Western Canada's top trusted installer.
At Solve, we're not just a company, we're a solar revolution. With years of experience, we've harnessed the sun's energy to make a positive impact on our planet and your wallet. Our cutting-edge installation process and sustainable solutions empower you to harness the sun's limitless potential, reducing your energy bills. You may be wondering, do I get enough sun for solar panels? Well, fear not. Our experts can evaluate your location and tell you if it's solar friendly. We use multiple technologies that allow us to accurately determine if your roof is a good fit for solar. How can I go solar for no money down? What are the qualifications of that? Don't worry, we are here to help. Our team at Solve handles the entire process from start to finish, so you won't have to deal with those headaches that come with permitting, design, engineering, or dealing with the utility company. Feel free to reach out to our team at Solve.
Once again, that's Solve Energy, solveenergy.com. You can find out more by going to info@solveenergy.ca. APP is membership driven with a goal of 1 million plus members to help stir the political process. And of course, you can find out more by going to our webpage here as well, albertaprosperityproject.com. We've updated our website. We now have direct links to our webinars and our pillars of pertinent information like taxation, pension, policing, immigration, and employment insurance. We also have a link to our referendum to register your vote, to vote yes in a referendum on Alberta's independence. And we also have, let me just go back to here then. We also have our webinars, of course we do, right down here. Look at all of them. We do this every single Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday and actually having a sit-down conversation with everybody too. The other thing I did want to mention is our events page. So if you go under the events, we're going to have a banner put on this. We talked about this earlier. But if you go to our events page, you're going to find out that we've actually got quite a few events going on, including this weekend. We've got our members meeting in New Sarepta, which is near Edmonton. It's at the New Sarepta Community Hall. And it is from 10 till 6 o'clock on Saturday. And we got what are we doing? 10 till 11 is registration and welcome. We're also doing a silent auction. So if you are attending, or even if you're not attending, you just want to sponsor some sort of anything to help us make some money to do some fundraising, please get a hold of us, and we can certainly put it into the silent auction. I know we've got a dozen items anyways, could always use more. We're doing an interactive strategy session hosted by none other than our CEO, Jonathan Baines, and that's from 11 till 12. We're going to do a catered lunch, and that's from Range Road 221 Catering Company. And then at 1 o'clock until about 2:30 or 3 o'clock, we're going to have Dr. Dennis Modry come on, talk a little bit about the Alberta Prosperity vision and the mission. We'll, of course, have outgoing CEO Christopher Scott on with a message and welcoming the new CEO, which, of course, is Jonathan Baines. And he's going to be talking about the execution of strategies and future outlook for the Alberta Prosperity Project. And then we have our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is Michael Wagner this year, if anybody remembers him from previous webinars. And he's very much an independence-minded Albertan. And as a little bit of a secret, he's actually coming on next Wednesday on the webinar too. Just so you know, it's not a secret now that I've told him. But he'll be on here next Wednesday, so make sure you check us out there. And then after that, we've got a nice little social going on where you can talk with other people in our group, including myself. I'll be there, and I will be DJing. I'll be doing the social music, so I hope you guys can make it out for that. What else have we got on other than events? Well, you know what? We've also got a door knocking campaign that's going on. And I'm just going to go back to here. I'm not sure whether or not we've actually got anything on the website about the door knocking. So I'm just going to read a previous blurb here. No, it doesn't look. So as discussed in a previous webinar with APP's new CEO, Jonathan Baines, we're doing a door knocking campaign to get the word out and get contact information for the referendum on independence. We're also putting tables at trade shows as well. So the APP's Ambassador Committee is hard at work gathering registrations for the intent to vote yes for Alberta's independence. And as part of this initiative, they would like to attend 4 trade shows over the next few months to help spread awareness and collect registrations for the intent to vote. But these shows take not only volunteers, but of course they take money. If you're able to sponsor just $50 towards one of these shows, you can help make it possible, and you can get some recognition and acknowledgement at the event. If you would be interested in sponsoring, please contact Dawn at Dawn Berard. I'll put that little blurb up there. Dawn Berard at albertaprosperity.com. That's D as in Dawn, Berard as in the dog St. Bernard, but without the N, at albertaprosperity.com. She told me to actually say that, so it's not just me saying that. Tonight's episode, I'm actually thrilled to have our returning guest here. I'm just going to take that off for a second. Tonight's episode is called Is the Cure Worse Than the Disease? And no, surprisingly, this episode is not about your health with a title like that, but instead about how federal legislation designed to protect us from bullying, harassment, and even ransom demands is actually worse than the harms they were intended to protect us from. My guest is Sharon Polsky, who many of our viewers will recognize her from being on an APP webinar in October 2023, talking about the consequences of going totally digital in this world. Sharon is president of aminacorp.ca, which is a privacy and data protection company. She's also president of the Privacy and Access Council of Canada and a Privacy by Design ambassador with more than 30 years experience advising corporations and governments, as well as parliamentary, Senate, and legislative committees about privacy and access matters and about the unintended consequences of emerging laws, technologies, and global trends. This is a live webinar, and of course, we encourage you to ask questions and make comments throughout this presentation. Just put 3 question marks before your comments so that we can see the questions. And with that, don't forget to share. Please share. I'm going to put a little banner down there to remind you. And with that, I'm going to bring Sharon on. Hello, Sharon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you been?
Excellent. It has been a little while now that you've heard me ramble for like 10 minutes, hon. But you know what? All of this stuff is really important stuff. It's important for Alberta. It's important for the Alberta Prosperity Project. And it's important to let people know about what freedoms are basically being pulled away right from underneath the carpet underneath our feet, per se, right?
Well, there's a lot going on. You're not kidding.
I'm sure.
And it's hard to keep track of it all.
That's right. And Sharon, where are you right now?
I'm in Montreal.
You're in Montreal. And what are you doing in Montreal?
Well, I stopped in Toronto. I had some meetings. I've been advising one of the lawmakers there. They're bringing in some new legislation and frameworks relating to artificial intelligence. So they wanted some guidance on the privacy implications and how to approach what they're doing to make sure that privacy is properly considered and protected. And then I've got meetings here, and I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I had been invited to testify again before a parliamentary committee studying Bill S210.
Okay.
And I was all ready to go, and it was a bit of a short notice. They sometimes give a couple of weeks notice, sometimes a week, and it was on Friday afternoon or something. So I got all my bookings done, and then there was a committee meeting on Monday, and I'm still learning. I've been to testify at several committees now.
For sure.
And, chairman introduces the first member of parliament who says, "Thank you, Mr. Chair. Point of order." And they start discussing something else.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And then someone else has a point of order, which is, I guess, parliamentary committees speak for, excuse me, but.
Yeah.
And the discussion goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the senator who introduced Bill S210, that's all about protecting young people from seeing online what they're not supposed to be able to see in real life. Yeah. She was supposed to appear that day. She didn't. Other people were there from her office and other people. All of the discussion about other things, though, completely sidelined it. Legitimate discussion. They have to get through these things. They pick their timing, I'm sure. But the result was that everything got sidelined. The meeting was a bust. Some say it's filibustering. Some say they're just running out the clock before spring or before the summer recess.
Right. Yeah.
So I was told to expect the invitation again. So I'm waiting for word. I'm in the area. I'm relatively speaking close by. And then there's other meetings and conferences, and then I'll head back to Alberta, where I'm usually based.
Wow. Does this delay tactic seem to happen often? And one of the things I'm going to say is that my understanding is that today in the Alberta legislature, it was Rachel Notley's last day, and she was trying to delay voting, going through a few bills that were going to go through, basically just to delay it until the end of the spring, the summer break. And it seems that the Alberta government did manage to squeak those things through. And maybe that's another total off topic that we'll get into, and maybe we won't get into about what went through in the Alberta legislature. But I know you're based really about the federal bills that are going through in terms of the House Commons and in the Senate. But do you find that this is a tactic that governments do? Is that they're basically supposed to go through question period. They're supposed to go through all of this procedure and just delay and delay and delay and delay. Like, how many bills can they possibly get through within a certain amount of time?
Well, I'm as I say, I'm still learning what the parliamentary process is all about, and they do have their question period, and I think it's all scripted. These are the questions that have been approved to be asked. These are the responses. Whether they actually answer the question or not is questionable in itself. But it seems the closer we get to an election each time, the more things don't get dealt with. And maybe it's a tactic that one side can say, we tried, we introduced the legislation we said we would. The other side can say, we're standing up for Canadians because the legislation was terrible. Whatever, they both are jockeying for position to be able to point to the other one and say, aha, you see, they don't. It's electioneering by now.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the reasons we had you on the webinar initially was talking about digital, the problems with going everything digital, and that we of course did the webinar in October. Nothing really has changed with that. I'm assuming, like, it's all still a concern about going totally digital. Do you want to maybe make a comment or two since what you've seen since happened in October?
Since that, I mean, we look at it's not Canada isolated. It seems to be monkey see, monkey do politics, where if it's good enough for one jurisdiction that manages to squeak something in or introduce something, again, they can look at the other jurisdiction and say, see, they're doing it. We can do it too. Meantime, Australia, one of their major banks, is no longer handling cash because most people don't use cash anymore. So there's no need to use cash. Everybody can go digital, except not everybody is comfortable with digital or has the phone or is able to use a computer.
That's true.
But that's the way they're going. And I know when the senator who introduced Bill S-210 did testify this week, she was pointing at other jurisdictions saying they have introduced, Europe, UK, wherever, they have introduced similar legislation, ostensibly, to protect children. And she stopped short of saying other jurisdictions tried to and realized what folly it is and have pulled the legislation.
Well, okay. Well, then that's good then. That's good to know. Was it more just the wording, or was it just the fact that it's just wrong? Because there are a lot of these bills that seem, on paper, they sound great until you actually analyze them. And then you go, wait a minute, there's something is not right with the wording, or maybe we need to tighten this up a bit, because there are so many things that can possibly happen with the way it's worded.
Well, this one here, and don't get me wrong, protecting children is important.
Yeah.
Is it up to the government to protect my children, or to say what I'm allowed to have as an opinion? Well, I would argue that no, it's not. Their business is to govern, not to be in my home, in my bedroom, unless it truly is for my safety. But my children's safety, what they or I look at on the web, that's up to me as the parent, not the state.
Yeah.
They don't quite see it that way. In this case, the legislation, the goal on the surface is absolutely reasonable, but how they're going about it. I'll give you an example. In order for anybody to be able to see pornography, kids can't go into a store that has pornography. They can't go into a sex shop. They have to be 18, maybe produce ID to prove their age. They shouldn't be able to online also, except if you do a search on Amazon.ca for the term teen porn, there's like 10,000 hits. There's girly magazines and some very explicit photos on the covers of those magazines. You can do a search for dildos. Would you like vibrating, pink, neon, with attachments for, what would you, it's all there.
Yeah. So
the senator says it's only for pornography, but the bill doesn't say that. The bill doesn't say that an organization that promotes or provides for commercial purposes, it does say that, pornography or a certain percentage of what they carry is pornographic, or it doesn't give any limits. It also says a person, and doesn't define it, so it's a person, like flesh and blood person, or a company, is defined as someone that provides access to the internet or access to email, which can very easily be interpreted by whoever's going to end up administering and regulating this law, that when I go to Starbucks and they have free Wi-Fi and my kid is with me, my underage child is with me, are we both going to have to provide our driver's license, identification, prove our age? And worse yet, the organizations are going to have to retain that information, because if the regulator says, excuse me, prove that the only people you've given access to are over 18, they have to retain that. And most companies, a frighteningly small proportion of them across Canada, have privacy officers, have privacy policies, have proper policies and training in place for the correct management and handling of sensitive and personal information. Their systems, most of them, if you're a barista or a coffee vendor or you're a janitorial company, whatever your business is, it's not technology usually. You rely on someone else. Hospitals do too, and they get hacked and nailed for ransomware. But every company, every organization, including ISPs, that we know them to be are going to have to collect all that data and keep it. That's massive risk.
Yeah.
Then we get into other parts of it. Things like age verification. Okay, I'll go online. It'll be the artificial intelligence that will estimate my age. Well, they're not accurate. The companies that create this technology already admit that it's not particularly accurate. It's got a long way to go before it really is market ready.
Yeah.
And not everybody looks the same. I had a wonderful conversation with a young woman in Toronto. She's 22 years old. She's 4 feet tall. She's a dwarf. She looks young.
Yeah.
Her Instagram account was automatically canceled after several years, despite the fact that that's primary source of income for her. Why? Because the artificial intelligence, the algorithms calculated that she can't possibly be old enough to qualify to have an account.
Wow.
And then who do you appeal to?
Yeah.
You send an email and wait and hope.
Especially for something like Instagram or Facebook. If anybody's ever run into an issue where you try and get a hold of somebody, you cannot get a hold of anybody.
Nope. You, like I say, you send an email to help and you wait.
Yeah.
It goes into some black hole.
Yeah.
There's very little recourse.
Wow.
Sex workers.
Yeah.
What about the people who actually are going onto pornography sites or adults?
Yeah.
It's perfectly legal. Go right ahead. Do
Yeah.
they really want their birth date attached to their account?
Right. Yeah.
Especially so many websites automatically send your presence to the likes of Facebook using metapixels, hidden cookies, basically.
That's true too.
And all that information about you and your preferences, your predilections, it all gets sent to the data brokers to be monetized. Do you remember what happened when Ashley Madison got hacked a few years ago?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're looking at that happening on scale. People killed themselves.
Yeah.
Because they were so mortified at the prospect of being outed.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It was a marriage site or people that wanted to basically have it adulterous flings or whatever you want to call it. That was the Ashley Madison. Yeah,
exactly. What a fiasco that was. And we're going to have all our personal information out there with what company and why should I trust them? Yeah. Prove to me that you actually deserve my trust and your trust. Don't just tell me I should trust them.
That's right. So in this case, for Bill S-210, what's your take on this? Like, do you think this one will go through? Do you think it needs changes, or like what's your take on it?
Oh, at best, it needs massive changes.
Yes. Yeah.
It really should be pulled and rethought, because I mean, it's hitting all the right buttons and checks the boxes, protecting children. And it's a mom and apple pie issue. How can you say you don't want to protect children? Yeah. But that's not what the objection is.
Yeah.
The objection is that it is just way too broadly worded, and it is a vast net that will catch everybody. And truly, if what they want it to do is protect children, then say so and write it so that that's what it's to do.
Yeah. Yeah. The when we did ask you to come on, you sent I'm going to put the link in the comments here. You sent us a great article that you wrote, and it definitely caught my eye. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Of course, we softened it up a little bit in terms of the title of the webinar here, but basically it just says that the cure is the cure worse than the disease, and you basically go through and you talk about. Whoops, let me just zoom in on this here. You talk about these trio of bills, including S-210, the Protecting Young Persons from Exposure to Pornography Act. What about these other ones here? Bill C-26, an act respecting cybersecurity, and Bills C-63, which we've actually talked a little bit about, and it's the Online Harms Act. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about these ones that are coming through as well.
Well, each one of them, the objective of them is on the surface reasonable.
Yeah.
to protect infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. But the language is, again, so broad, and it gives government sweeping powers to, I mean, one of them says that the government can tell an organization to do or refrain from doing whatever the government says.
Yeah.
In other words, and it's not just me. I mean, there's literally hundreds of data scientists, professors, academics, lawyers, people who know the technology side of it, who are saying, stop, this is dangerous. Because with that sort of thing, we're looking at a government saying, break encryption.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, January 8th, 2021, Prime Minister Trudeau was on air, and he said the insurrection in Washington, D.C. was arranged online. Things like that are a danger to democracy. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is essentially what he did say. He said, to protect democracy, we will monitor everything online.
Wow. Yeah.
So now they come up with these laws that say we're going to be able to tell anybody to do anything, whether it's break encryption, monitor, put monitoring technology on your device as if that's better somehow. So it puts it on the device. We saw that with Google last week. They're going to put the warnings if the AI on your phone determines that what you're discussing is inappropriate according to somebody's judgment, or it's contrary to social cohesion or whatever according to someone's judgment, or I'm discussing sex, drugs, rock and roll, and it's contrary to what? Or I'm criticizing the political party in power or the public policy or anything. It's not a far step from having AI block one topic and shifting it to block others, because, software gets updated in the background. We don't know what the algorithms are being changed to monitor.
Yeah.
Huge danger in all of that for democracy and freedom and our freedom to associate and to say what we want.
Yeah. No,
I'm not calling hate speech and inciting violence and criminal activity. There are limits, and there need to be certain limits granted. But everyday conversation, there's a wide realm of topics that somebody could easily take offense to. And that's the problem with one of these pieces of legislation, is that if somebody takes offense to something I've posted, I have control. I could pull that post down.
Yeah.
If they take offense to it, they will be able to lodge a complaint with the Canadian Human Rights Commission that could say, yes, complainant, your identity will remain anonymous. If the taxpayer-funded commission evaluates that indeed what I've said is offensive, I could be ordered to pay the complainant $20,000, and there's a $50,000 surcharge due to the government as well. If there's reason to believe that I might say something similar in the future, pre-crime, I could be there, peace bond, ankle bracelet, house arrest, all sorts of things, because I might say something that someone in the world might be offended by.
Yeah. That's what they were calling it, the thought police bill, right? Like,
absolutely.
Anything that we always think of something that, if you're breaking the law and you're doing it now, then you get arrested for it. But this series is anything past and future. Like, that's scary.
Potential. That's right. And, I've always wondered, the book was 1984. Minority Report took place in 2054.
That's right.
Now we're in 2024. What is it with 4?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Although I think this stuff was even talked about in last year in 2023, but I mean, it's still, you're right. It's ridiculous.
It's been talked about for a long time. Do you remember, I think it was 2012 when Vic Taves was the federal justice minister, I believe. And he famously said, you are either with us or you're with the pornographers, the predators.
Yeah.
That's when they were trying to put in lawful access. Some people called it awful access, to give the police a back door. Well, if you create a back door, then you have to police who's going to be using that back door, and you can't.
Yeah.
The people with the means, motivation, money, they're way ahead of the police and the government and their laws.
Yeah.
They disregard the laws, and they're from offshore usually anyhow. Back doors are back doors. So they've been trying for a long time in Canada and elsewhere.
And again, I'll ask the same question. What is your take on some of these other bills that have gone through? Or do you think that they're going to go through? Do you think we need to stand up and start going, what the hell is going on? Are we...
A lot more people have to start getting vocal. I mean, pounding your keyboard and discussing it here is good to increase awareness. Absolutely. It's important. The truly independent journalists are taking up the cause also and getting blocked or squelched. A lot of people are still very comfortable looking at mainstream media. And honestly, I get a lot of the media releases from various governments. And then I see the mainstream media report, their story about it is verbatim. There's no investigative reporting. That has not been funded. So many of the major media outlets they receive taxpayer dollars through the government. Well, who's going to bite the political paymaster's hand and risk not getting more money? I look at all of this and it's troubling. Will they actually pass the laws? I hope not, because the danger behind them really is profound. The Artificial Intelligence Data Act was, I think it was 7 pages, 15 bilingual pages out of a couple hundred pages of Bill C-27. And it was all very vague, very little definition of the terms. And whether it's that or Bill S-210 or any others, the way Ottawa seems to do it in recent years is they enact the legislation, and how it's actually going to be operationalized is in the regulations that do not get public discussion. There is no public oversight. There's no opportunity to know what will be in the regulations before they're published. And who writes them? It's not the elected representatives.
There's so much that we can unpack with all that. So again, kind of as we open up, do you think a lot of these are just put in just to take up time and maybe not even really have any end result, but just to have the discussion? Like, are we just paying the government just to have a discussion, or do you really think that they're really trying to push these bills through? Now, maybe not in their exact the way that they're laid out right now, but in essence.
Yeah. It is important. Yes, there are other laws already on the books that with some imagination could apply. I look back in the early, I think it was 1982, the criminal code was about 1,700 pages long. Now it's over 2,000, approaching 3,000. There aren't that many new crimes, but they keep adding bits and pieces here and there this happened once, what if it happens again? And unfortunately, that also means anybody trying to prosecute or, lay a charge, the paperwork has gone from, for a drunk driving charge from half an hour to half a shift.
That's right.
Is it to our betterment? I could argue it's not, and I'm sure some people would take the opposite side. The lawmakers, to the credit of many of them, though, some of them have quietly, privately, in private conversation away from the microphones in committee room, have said to me, I don't understand this technology. And I say, so why are you pushing so hard to have this legislation pushed through? And someone is telling them, it would appear. I don't know. I'm supposing. Somebody has, whether it's an agenda, a long-term plan, I don't know. But from appearances, and there's some of them who really are paying attention. I've been involved, the Privacy and Access Council of Canada has been involved in a loose coalition of civil society groups, and most of them have appeared before various committees dealing with the legislation we're talking about tonight and other pieces of legislation. And we try not to just criticize, but to offer suggestions of how to improve it.
Yes.
ADA, yes, we need to regulate artificial intelligence because the technology has been embedded.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost everywhere. It affects every facet of our lives.
Yeah.
It's completely uncontrolled except by the technocracy. There needs to be some limits on it, but not in the form that ADA is. That needs to be split off from Bill C-27, given proper consultation, not just a few people, and I mean a few out of approaching 100 witnesses who spoke at committee on Bill C-27, but not about ADA, because the members of parliament said what there is in ADA isn't enough to actually consider, and they ended up having to insist that the minister provide the amendments that he would consider putting in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the end of November, like the second or third to last meeting scheduled for that committee, very near the end of their mandate.
Yeah.
He produced a 33-page letter, including various amendments he might consider looking at putting in. No promises, you understand.
Yeah.
None of it there was no opportunity for any of it to have proper consultation.
Wow.
So to pass that into law, I mean, I think it really diminishes the credibility of government, the trust in government. It's unfortunate.
Well, and that is also a whole other discussion. Is we're relying on our elected representatives to be well versed in all of these laws that are going in, and like you said, there are some that have no idea on the internet and what can be done, and security, and like you said, you're called in to talk about privacy because they rely on these specialists or to be able to come in and say, what's wrong, what's right,
and educate them.
And at the same time, they're just people. They're government elected representatives.
They are, and they're from all walks of life, whether it's journalism or bus driver or whatever they did before they were elected, and good on them for stepping forward to be elected. Yeah. The problem is, and I was talking with the MPP from Ontario the other day about this very same issue. I mean, she comes from a long career in banking, knows that sector inside out. She said, I've been in government now as an elected representative only a couple of years. There's a lot to learn. And I was telling her, as far as privacy and legislation, all the rest, think of it. Computers landed on desktops almost a half century ago, early 80s.
Yeah.
They were expensive. They didn't have the power that a kid's cheap little telephone has now.
Yeah.
But computers are on desktops, and then the internet came out, and there has never been any real education about privacy law, rights, responsibilities, access to information, none of it. Yeah, we're teaching kids to code, but not everybody's going to need to know how to code. Plumber probably might with fancy electronic toilets with, built-in bidets and whatever, but most of them won't. A chef might not need to code. A lot of people will, but not everybody. Yeah. As it is now, though, whether it is the legislators, lawmakers, lawyers, the bureaucrats, the civil servants, they're like everybody else. They haven't had the education to understand what are these technologies, how do they work together, what are the unintended consequences of implementing something. All too often they sign a contract with a company, then they might call somebody in to say, what are the privacy implications? Mm-hmm. Well, you should have thought of that before you even put it out to RFP, please.
Yeah.
So the only person that they can get their advice from is the vendor.
Yeah.
And I keep telling them, I've said this in committee in Ottawa, I said it to the MPP, I keep saying, the only reason a company, a vendor is interested is to provide the greatest return possible to their investors, their shareholders. Your privacy is not their concern. The sales executive's major concern is making a sale, getting their numbers up and getting their commission in their pocket.
Yeah.
But that's who guides. And don't kid yourself, a lot of them are speaking with the members of parliament to say this is important when it comes to age verification and the artificial intelligence technologies. I'm working with several different committees to develop standards for various things that have privacy implications. And when it comes to the facial rec and age verification, the sorts of technologies that Bill S210 will require, many of the people on these committees are either industry reps or corporate representatives from the very companies that develop the technology and stand to profit from it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's important to get the technological insights, but is it right or proper or good for anyone other than the company's bottom line to have them guiding the way?
Yeah. So let me ask you a few things, kind of off topic, I guess, but still on the topic of privacy. Have you flown in the last little bit?
I did.
So now when you're coming back, I think it's coming back into Canada, or even going down, I guess it's facial recognition as well. So when you come back into Canada, you don't even produce your passport anymore. It's you stand on a line and they take a picture of your face.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that in terms of privacy?
Well, I came back from Europe a few years ago, and long day, long flight, get to Pearson, not my favorite airport, whatever, end up being shuttled like cattle in literally, it was a hallway in the bowel of the building.
Yeah.
And at the end of the hall was a few kiosks, and you look at each other, this is the only option, and stand, and it's facial rec.
Yeah.
And as you're leaving, there is a stack, like someone took a handful and threw them on the floor of paper forms. There's nobody at all to ask, is there an alternate way?
That's right. Exactly.
There is an alternate way. You are not required to submit to facial recognition, but there's no one there to tell you that. Yeah. I came back, I was invited to speak at the UN Internet Governance Forum in Japan in October, came back into Calgary. And there's the cattle line, and me being me, I asked one of the people there, is it facial recognition? I don't know. Would one of your colleagues know? Yeah. And I'm just telling people, go around, and I don't want to hold up the line, go around me. And the supervisor comes over, is there facial recognition? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. Of course it's facial recognition. Stand there and there you go, scan your passport. Yeah. They don't tell you that there is an alternate way. Of course, then there's me. They automatically want to put you through the scanner, the back shield scanner, whatever they call it. Yeah. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. On principle, also because I know the person who did the privacy impact assessment on them, who said what was told in the public, no. Wow. Not anything like that.
Really?
I've known him for 20 years. When he says that, it's a very pretty strong warning. Yeah. No, I will go for the pat down every time.
Really?
Yep.
So none of this, that's what you're saying? Don't
ask questions. It's not automatic. Oh, yeah, I know a lot of airports, when you get to the gate, they want to do facial recognition because it'll speed up the line.
That's exactly what that's.
Well, you know what? Open the gate a couple minutes earlier.
Yeah. And there's usually just one person now. I don't know. Another thing that I've noticed, usually there was like 3 or 4 people at a gate. Now there's like one person. And do they do that again? Is it the same analogy as going through the grocery store now and having one person look after 10 tills while you're putting your own groceries in? Right? Is it?
I know they used to bag it all, so now you do the work for them, and they just increase the price anyhow.
Yeah, but there's less employees. That's the other thing I'm saying is that if you're dealing with an airline and there's only one person there, well, guess what? They're actually saving, 1 or 2 extra people from having to do this.
Yeah, and when you talk about airlines and security and privacy, I wonder because WestJet announced recently that there's going to be a new fare class where you can pay a lower fare if you're not going to be taking anything on board, no carry-on bags. Except after 9/11, one of the big risk factors that got you a secondary inspection was no baggage.
No baggage. Yeah, you're right, because that does look suspicious. Wow. And it'd be, I can think of a couple of scenarios where maybe you live abroad and, you've got a different house, or you're staying with somebody and you've got some clothes, or you got some toiletries, or maybe it's a day trip, right? I used to do day trips down to Vegas, Seattle, and Vancouver very, very often. First flight in, last flight out, right? So I don't need a bag, although I would typically at least bring a handbag of some sort, business attire. But it does look very suspicious when there's, you're checking in and no bag whatsoever.
That's right. I do the same. I have a bag. It's my computer bag. I can expand it. I can put in my toiletries, a change of clothes. It's under 22 pounds. It's over my shoulder. It's a tote bag. It's a purse.
So my point with this conversation about the airlines is about privacy. So who actually controls that data? Because I'm assuming it's the government, but is it truly the government, or is it a corporation that owns that? Fill us in what you think.
That's an interesting one, because when you think of it, again, after 9/11, the US put in their no-fly list, and then Canada did. Yeah. And people were outraged. What do you mean the Department of Homeland Security is going to vet me? I'm Canadian. I'm flying in Canada, but we're close enough to the States. It's understandable. Something could happen. The plane could have a problem. It would have to land in the States. Okay, they want to know that everybody on board isn't going to be a risk. Fine. Nobody stopped to think that when the air regulations were put in the 1980s, I believe it was, and the information that airlines would have to collect was itemized then, that we now call it the passenger name record. That was the opportunity that Ottawa could have said, and all the data has to stay in Canada. They didn't. From day one, all of our data was going through Sabre in Texas.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. Interesting.
And when you do fly, every person on the plane has a different circumstance. Whether, and even if it's you're flying with your partner or your child, there might be different health issues, different meal requirements, different mobility requirements. Everybody on the plane is probably not going to the same place ultimately. They might have come from different places, different citizenship or residency status, marital status, criminal records, all of this. There's a huge amount of information that is collected and that gets transmitted between airlines, connecting airlines, airports, government regulators, law enforcement. It's vast. And I had lunch with the privacy officer from one of the largest, I'm not sure it's the largest, American airline carriers. And he said the number of people in his department, the privacy department in that American air carrier, is larger than all of the privacy officers of other American carriers put together.
Wow.
He said Delta has one person. Delta is, I think, the biggest, second biggest. They have one person.
Wow. That's shocking, to say the least. To imagine that all that data is basically going through one person, or one person's overseeing it all.
One person is trying to protect it all, and writing the policies and doing the training and doing privacy impact assessments and collaborating with the security people and the technology people to make sure that the security protections and protocols are correct and in place to provide appropriate privacy.
Now, is that just the corporation would decide how many people should be doing this particular job? Or is it just that maybe there's just not enough people that, you know what, I'm really going to get into privacy?
Both.
Both.
It's a corporate decision.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, privacy has always been viewed as being a cost
An
center.
expense. Absolutely.
That's right. It's an expense. It doesn't generate any revenue. Although I've been telling my clients from day one, do privacy properly, and you can use that as your business differentiator. You can go to market and say, we don't give lip service. We actually genuinely do protect your information according to the highest bar possible, not the lowest common denominator, which unfortunately a lot of organizations do in all sorts of industries. How many people will have a job in the privacy department? It's up to management in the company. The law says, and keep in mind, at least in Canada, we have the overarching federal private sector privacy law, PIPEDA, and each of the jurisdictions has their own. Various states in the US have privacy laws. They don't have an equivalent to the Privacy Act or the PIPEDA.
Okay.
So it's a patchwork. And are there enough people? No. Is there any proper training? No. Why not? I go back to what I said before. It's a public policy decision as to what gets funded to be on the curriculum.
Yeah. So we're talking airplanes, and but what about like anything else that deals with privacy? So everyone's got a phone. They all have their cards, their loyalty stuff, and you know, grocery store. What about the same thing with that? Is there probably like one person looking after all the privacy in Walmart, as an example?
We don't know.
We don't know.
It's as simple as that. We don't know. In Canada, the laws say that an organization is supposed to provide the name, the contact information for the privacy person. Most times you look at what's referred to as a privacy policy on the website, and it says if you have questions, contact info @ or privacy @ or.
Yeah, that's right.
Who is it? I had a question of the Royal Bank of Canada several years ago, and the branch manager said, "Oh no, we're not going to tell anybody who you are. We're not going to." I said, "But the booklet you just gave me says we will share your information with our affiliates and partners. Who are they?"
Yeah, you're right.
And when you change it, you're going to tell me. She said, "You know what? I don't know. I'm the branch manager. Only call the privacy office." So I did. I couldn't get through to the person. I finally got through to somebody who said, "No, you cannot speak with that person, because if they spoke to every person who wanted to talk to them about privacy, they'd never get anything done." It's a challenge. So we don't have enough people who actually have gotten into privacy. Some people in computer science have touched on it. A couple of law schools in Canada have finally started to have programs or are developing programs that do go into privacy. Some take it from the historical perspective. The need for privacy is value in a democracy, and it's essential. It's fundamental. Others, it's more on the legislative side. Very seldom, from my experience, is it on the practical side. There might be a case study, but that's about it. And that has been a struggle, but I know it was a year and a half ago now, the professional certification program that we developed in the Privacy and Access Council that we launched in 2009, that became the national standard of competency for privacy and access and data protection professionals in Canada. And it's the only national standard of the sort anywhere still.
Yeah. Wow, that's
people
amazing.
wing it. They say, "Oh yeah, I took a course." It's like when the GDPR was introduced in Europe in 2015, and all of a sudden there's courses, and you can come and take this boot camp and be certified, and you're a qualified certified privacy officer.
Yeah.
That's all you had to do.
Whatever that possibly means over there.
Yeah. With no criteria, no way of evaluating, no consistency. At least now Canada, whether it's developing a training program corporately or at an academic institution, or you want to hire someone, or you at least have something to go to see, oh, the person should have some good handle of these different issues, of these laws, of how to do this, how to do that. There's a guide, it's a standard. It's published and it's free.
Well, it's great that you're able to go ahead and look into everyone's privacy, or at least, give us the opportunity to say, this is not private, this is private. So here's the other question too. Have we really lost the majority of our privacy now? Like, even within the last 5 or 10 years, have we really lost a lot of privacy?
Yeah, we've been a bunch of boiled frogs.
Yes, we have.
Everybody, and it's the marketing, and it's the very, very savvy marketing. I remember doing it
for your safety.
For your safety, for your convenience. It's all about convenience.
Even better.
But it's not your convenience, it's for convenience. They don't say whose.
Yeah.
So you can improve your driving behavior, and you can earn a reduction in your insurance rates.
That's right. You're right.
Just install this little doohickey and the app on your phone. The app on your phone is not Canadian, it's American. It doesn't even monitor your car. It monitors the sensors in your phone. It is 99% accurate. It also monitors everything else on your phone if you're not careful. If you don't know the questions to ask. Our cars, every automaker says the information collected by your vehicle when you pair your phone and upload your contacts, the location, all the information collected by and generated by your vehicle is theirs. And they're not Canadian.
Yeah.
So whether it's our cars, machines, the smart meters that monitor the power usage, except every appliance in our house gives a unique signature, so they can tell when somebody turned on the lights at 2 o'clock in the morning or opened the fridge and left the lights on for 3 hours. You don't get the opportunity to say, yeah, I was on the late shift tonight. Instead, they can look, and their algorithms will make a determination that somebody in the house must be overtired, which is as risky as being impaired through drugs or alcohol. Your insurance rates go up. They want sensors in your home so that you don't have to endure a water leak, so they don't have to incur the repair and the payout on the claim. Meantime, they're monitoring in your home. Don't get me started on video doorbells that so many people put in, especially during COVID, because it makes them feel safe. It doesn't make them safe. It makes them feel safe.
That's right. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. Now I just want to go and live in a cabin somewhere, but I'm sure they'll still track me.
Well, when I drove to Montreal a couple of years ago, I took Route 11 across northern Ontario. Yeah. Amazing road, dead straight, great wildlife. Yeah. There's no cell service there, but I've got I do have a wayfinding app that I use, and I allow it to track my location each time I use it. Other than that, I say no. And it was tracking me the whole time. No cell service. The satellites, though.
Still tracking. Wow.
You bet.
So even if you had a 1970s car without any electronics, nothing, no Apple CarPlay or anything like that, it's still would that be the only way that you could possibly get away with having your privacy?
Yep. Wow. Every car in North America since 1987, I think it is, has a black box recorder.
Yeah.
A black box data recorder. But if you've got anything electronic on you, an AirTag, AirPods, anything, if it emits a signal, and now there's technology that can detect all signals emanating from a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
And they each have their unique identifier, so all that information, therefore your identity, is easily correlated.
Wow. So
my question is, who gets the information and what is their motive?
I was just going to say that. So you took the words right out of my mouth. And so who is that? Is it just a big corporation like BlackRock, or is it do you have any idea? Do you have any and guesses?
It's hard to track back on many of them, but a lot of them, it's pretty simple. You pull up a website before you see it. Facebook has been told. It goes into the data broker's hands. There's hundreds or thousands of them by now. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry of bidding on you and me to get their message in front of our eyeballs. But they're all collaborating and correlating all the details about us. And I've been very public about this, in committee in Ottawa. I've said all of this creates industry, innovation, economic gain, jobs, travel, hospitality expenses, jobs, and taxes. So there's no political will to change it for all that they say. The one thing that does seem to get through is when I look at them square in the eyes, and I do, and I say, and this will affect you and you and you and your children and you and your children. And then you see the look change that, oh my God, look in their eyes.
Every generation, there's something that's taking more freedoms away.
Yeah, and I look at it. I was invited to speak at the Holocaust and Genocide Symposium at a university last year, and it's actually the first time the computer science department sent anybody, and the class was there, and they stayed afterwards, had a great conversation with them. Okay. Think back almost exactly 100 years ago, where IBM, and I don't know if you remember or
I was 100 years old, though.
No, I know. I was just a babe too, but there was punch cards.
Oh yeah, I remember punch cards.
Okay. Yeah. And that rudimentary technology was enough to catalog entire populations.
And that's true. Yeah, you're
very,
right.
very fine, with amazing accuracy. Yeah. Move the clock ahead, and now we have DNA. Ancestry, 23andMe. We've got our location. If you take an Uber and you live in the city of Calgary, at last count, when Uber contacted me about it, the livery bylaw said that Uber had to provide the city of Calgary with automatic reporting monthly, I think he said, of every single trip, the precise geolocation and time. Yeah. Which, if it's in a city, a European city where most residences are massive multifamily complexes, that's one thing. Yeah. Calgary, and I believe Edmonton also, it's mostly single family homes. Yeah. So the geolocation from my home to where? Wherever. And is it regular? Is it to this school or that parochial school or that church, synagogue, mosque, business, or the abortion clinic, or where?
You're right.
And it's being tracked. And why does the city need to know it to that degree of granularity? And what do they do with it?
Well, and again, the excuse may be, well, we just want to see if we should make these roads wider.
Yes.
When they would throw those little lines across the road just to count how many cars drive over. I mean, they could use that to track that. But now that's just an excuse that I've brought up. There's so many other excuses, but is everything nefarious? Like, is it really? We don't know where this data is going. We don't know who's keeping track of it. We don't know why. And we need to start asking those questions.
That's right. We do need to start asking those questions and not accept the answer of there is no responsive records.
Yeah.
Because that's what we keep getting told. You drive along, it's 13 minutes to downtown. It's 23 minutes to the airport. How do they know? Because it's the sensor tracking the vehicles. This vehicle passed this marker, it passed that marker. Yeah. It calculates the distance, the speed, all the rest of it. There's your answer, but it tracks all the vehicles going past.
Well, and
what else are they gathering?
Yeah. No, you're right. And I used to travel quite a bit, and I've mentioned that a few times. And I used to travel to Vegas a lot. And the last time I was there was when I shouldn't be going, if you know what I mean. And I ended up going down there, and I had a really good conversation with one of my friends down there, because one of the things that they noticed when they came to Canada and of course they could cross the border no problem, is all these 5G towers. And I call them 5G towers, but you know what they are. They're just the towers that look like trees, or they've got all these antennas and blah, blah, blah. Well, the city of Las Vegas, as well as Henderson and the surrounding area, said, no, we're not doing this. And there was so many people that stood up and said, no, this is not what we want, that they just haven't implemented. So they've obviously had to come up with some other idea in order to do this 5G or whatever the hell, they're doing. But coming from Calgary, where I can't look out my window without seeing a tower from the next window over and the next window over. They're everywhere.
They are.
Yeah.
But you said it. People objected. People
Yes.
have to get vocal, and not at election time.
Yeah.
Between elections now.
Yeah.
And, legislation is a bore to read. It's not difficult. It's really not.
Yeah.
You leave out what's between the commas half the time, and you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
There's enough reports. It's all available. You can watch the committee proceedings. You can read the reports that they put out. You can read the legislation. You can get in touch with their offices. And for every person that does, it apparently represents, dozens or hundreds.
I would imagine.
But they need our elected representatives at every level need to hear it. And I've asked some, what will you do? What is your position? Not your party's position. Don't send me to the party website. I don't want the party position. What is your personal position on this? Because if you are my elected representative, you are here to represent your constituents, not just toe the party line.
Yeah.
Make them uncomfortable. Make them answer to you.
Yeah.
If you ask questions and you challenge them on it, they will respond. And you say, you know what, either you give me a straight answer and you tell me, or I'm telling you now, I will not vote for you.
Yeah. You're right. That is the ultimate. That's basically like saying, well, you're just not going to have a job next time around, so you better do your job.
Yeah, and do it even before that. Get involved in the constituency association.
Absolutely.
Because that's where the candidates get elected.
Yeah.
The people who will run.
Yeah.
To get the vote.
And again,
we have to become much more involved.
We say that all the time on our APP webinars, and the fact that we've been so apathetic as a nation, as people, that we have just let all this pass by us, and it's been passing by us for years, to the point where, like you said, it's the boiling frog analogy, where oh well, and then all of a sudden it's going to really hit us at some point. So we need to step up and do that. And you know what? But there's so many distractions. There's a hockey game going on tonight. There's 90 people watching tonight. Normally we have like 400 or 500 people. So guess what people are doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
They're probably watching the hockey game. Now, kudos to everybody that's out there. Thank you so much. And we do stream these, and they'll be online tomorrow, so people will be able to watch this and go, yeah, I was one of those that watched the hockey game. But the point is that we need to step up and actually start doing some work. And I know everybody gets tired and everybody's busy doing other stuff. But if you can just spend, the way that we do our Alberta Prosperity Project is we've got this Support 5 initiative. And the idea is that if you can get 5 people signed up or to at least get them aware of APP, then great. Or spend 5 minutes spreading some social media messages about APP and all that every week. Like, that's 5 minutes. 5 minutes times 100,000 people. Just think of that.
The impact would be tremendous, and it's very necessary. And, people make choices, what's important to them. And I know there's all sorts of influences and obligations, and they chose to go to a hockey game. It's entertainment. It's an escapism. Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
How many people spend how many hours a day doom scrolling? All the information about legislation, the discussions about legislation. Just do a search for Bill S210, Bill C27, Bill C63. Go to Michael Geist, go to Privacy and Access. I mean, there's legitimate, reliable, credible, independent sources that often are complimentary, more often these days critical, but it's constructive criticism. But educate yourself. Don't wait for the government, and please don't just take what the government hands out, because on one of these laws, our federal attorney general, Mr. Varani, he was invited to speak before the Empire Club a couple of weeks ago, and he was discussing this piece of legislation, and it is the best thing. The way he's so eloquent, honestly, he's a wonderful speaker. And to listen to him, it is the most protective, privacy protective law. It's wonderful. He just happened to disregard all the bad points that are going to undermine our privacy, our safety, and our security, and our freedoms.
Wow.
But that's what they want us to hear, the talking points, the official approved narrative. We need to educate ourselves.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that, so how I was going to wrap up tonight is basically, we talked about a few of these bills and what's going on. And of course, you can always just go to the Parliament of Canada site, literally parl.ca.
Parl.gc.ca.
Oh, is that what it does?
Yeah.
This one does say, oh, I guess it is .gc. There's this one.
Parl.gc.ca, parliamentary business, members, committees.
There you go. So the point is that, you can definitely go and check out all the bills, and it's a dry read, I'm sure, but it is important to know what is going through here, right? And no one else is really going to help you go through this. Now, having said that, is there a recommended site that you could go to and actually look at what's going on and what the status is?
Where you are is the exact place, because in the menu there's the bills are listed, and you can sort whether it's a bill introduced in the Senate. Those typically don't go very far. S210 is a bit of an anomaly. You can go through the ones in the House, and the first screen you see gives an idea of where it is, whether it's first reading, second reading, at committee and being studied, third reading, which means it's pretty much a done deal. If you want to say something before committee, anybody can write to the committee. The committee clerk is listed with each committee, and it's, dear Madam Clerk, dear Mr. Clerk, although the names are there. Here's something I have to say. There was a beautiful one I saw a couple days ago about one of these pieces of legislation saying, I'm a woman from Alberta. This piece of legislation is dangerous.
Yeah.
Do not pass it. It is going to cause more trouble than anything it's going to protect. It's going to be detrimental for children especially. And you've got your head in the clouds if you pass it. Something as simple as that, like 5 lines.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a 25-page brief. Short and sweet. Tell them what's on your mind.
Yeah.
It goes on the public record.
And this works for all levels of government. So federal, provincial, municipality, just if there's something that I was going to say, if there's something that you don't like, but you got to do your research to find out that you find something that you don't like. That's the other thing too. People don't know about anything until they're actually told about it.
Unfortunately, that's right. They look at distractions very often. Yeah. And I do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure. We all need a break. I get that. But not just distractions and mindless drivel, which an awful lot of what's on the web is. That part of it that's not trying to convince us and shift our views, because there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
No, speak up, say something to the elected representatives. When you read the legislation, use your imagination. When it says an inspector can compel anybody to produce records.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a record is anything. It's a yellow sticky. It's in the computer. It's in the hard drive. It's on the CD. It's in a notebook. It's in the file cabinet. It doesn't specify. Use your imagination just to how broad this could be.
Yeah.
And unless it says written records for the past 7 years or And they often say that records documents can be carried away, copied, and must be returned. I've yet to see one that says they have to be returned within a certain time limit, which means if it's your business records that have been seized, you're out of business.
Yeah.
Read it with an open imagination.
Yeah. Wow. Well, any final words you want to say on all of this? Because I mean, again, we've unpacked quite a bit. The solutions are just get involved and wake up, shake your neighbor, wake them up.
And talk about this and encourage people. I mean, I like the 5 idea.
Yep, absolutely.
Spend 5 minutes, learn this stuff.
That's all it takes. Spend 5 minutes.
And then spend 5 minutes, send an email. Yeah. The lawmakers' emails are readily available on the website.
That's right.
A lot of people don't even know who their MP is.
Yeah.
Or their MLA or MPP.
That's right. Exactly. I know even on our own APP site here that I've got shown up here, the albertaprosperityproject.com, which I will again. I know everybody that's on here knows what it is anyways, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it more like a news site, but I hate to call that news site because you know what they've done with Western Standard and True North and all those, and they've shut them down. So what we're trying to do is just kind of compile our own news, a place that you can go to and actually learn a little bit about things. So we do have a team, Walter and his communications team, that are going through and putting some relevant topics on here, as well as, like I said, the webinars. So it's a great place to go to. And if you had to spend 5 minutes, I would say, and that's all the time that you could actually afford was 5 minutes, I'd say come to this site, look at it, and then if you find something, just copy and paste the URL and send it out to some friends. That's your 5 minutes. That's all you need to do, and get the word out of what we're trying to do as the project, to just get awareness out there on being under the umbrella of the federal government. And again, everybody has their own idea of independence. Some people will just say, I want out of Canada. Some people will say, I like being in Canada and I like working with other Canadians, but there are certain things that we need some more jurisdiction over. Then that's great too. And that website is a great place in order to go and do that. So, and I'm definitely going to link some of your articles on there as well, Sharon. And
appreciate it.
And thank you again for coming on. I know we've tried to do this a couple of times in the past, and I should almost just diarize every 3 or 6 months. I should get a hold of Sharon because there's so much going on, and we do have our regular guests. I like to definitely make you a regular guest if you're totally open to that idea. So
there's certainly enough to talk about.
Oh yes,
it's not going to go away anytime soon.
No. That's right.
Pick an industry, pick a technology, pick an issue, and they're all, you notice, it all flows together. Yeah. It's AI, but it's technology, but it's cars, but it's this, but it's that. It's all tied together.
That's right.
And one common theme is they all impact our privacy and our freedom.
That's right. Yeah, very true. I did want to just point out a couple of comments. We didn't really have a lot of questions on here, but and I was joking about the hockey game. And Lynette says, we do have the hockey game on muted, but we have the sound on you. Thanks, Lynette. And as well as Donna says, the hockey game is on, but on mute. Need to hear what you're offering tonight. Thank you. So that's always good. And then, of course, we've got Judy saying, thank you both. Scary. It's 42 for Edmonton. So thanks for the update. I wasn't even really not even caring right now. I'm more worried about everything else that's going on in the world, but it would be great to have a Canadian hockey team in the Stanley Cup Finals. So we'll see with that. So, and again, thank you so much again, Sharon, for coming on, and have a great rest of your week, and everybody out there as well. I'm hoping that we'll see a lot of people out there at the members meeting this Saturday at New Sarepta, and please go to the events page on the website for more. And of course, we do webinars every Wednesday. And like I said at the beginning here, next week we'll have Michael Wagner We've had on the webinars before talk about Alberta independence and who's the keynote speaker at the APP members meeting this Saturday. Next week, Michael discusses how every potential solution to Alberta's predicament that involves needing the approval of Central Canada will fail. The only solution that can work is one where Albertans get to make the decision for themselves without needing the approval of anyone else. That solution is a referendum on independence. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. And I know Sharon will be tuning in on that one as well.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And you guys have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks.
Take care.